Imagine a city sacred to three of the world's largest religions, a place where empires have risen and fallen, and where one of the bloodiest sieges in medieval history took place. Welcome to Jerusalem, 1187, where a clash between the Crusaders and the forces of Saladin would shape the course of history. The siege of Jerusalem was more than just a battle. It was a defining moment in the Crusades that would alter the balance of power in the Middle East. In today's video, we'll take you through the true story behind the Kingdom of Heaven. From the ambitious Crusaders to the tactical genius of Saladin, we'll unravel the dramatic events that led to the siege, the battle itself, and its lasting impact. So make sure to watch until the end, because this story has twists and turns that even Hollywood couldn't make up. And if you love uncovering the true stories behind epic events in history, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Let's dive into the Siege of Jerusalem. Our story begins with the backdrop of the Crusades, a series of religious wars launched by the Christian states of Europe to reclaim Jerusalem and the Holy Land from Muslim rule. Jerusalem held immense religious significance for Christians, Jews and Muslims alike, and the Crusades were a response to the growing influence of Islamic powers in the region. The First Crusade, which began in 1096, was a success for the Christians, who managed to capture Jerusalem in 1099. But the city's Christian rule was constantly under threat. Over the next century, the Crusaders established a fragile foothold in the Holy Land, creating what became known as the Kingdom of Jerusalem. But it was a kingdom surrounded by powerful Muslim states that sought to reclaim Jerusalem for Islam. By the 1180s, tensions had reached a boiling point. The Kingdom of Jerusalem was weakened by internal conflicts, and many of its leaders were struggling to maintain control over their territories. At the same time, a new power was rising in the Muslim world, a military leader named Saladin, who had united the Muslim states of Egypt and Syria. Saladin was determined to take back Jerusalem, seeing it as a duty to Islam. With the stage set and tensions high, both sides prepared for a confrontation that would define the fate of Jerusalem and the Crusader states. But who were the key players in this epic struggle? Let's start with the Christian side, led by King Guy of Lusignan, the ruler of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Guy had a controversial reputation, partly because of his marriage to Sibylla, the widow of the previous king. This marriage earned him the throne but divided the nobility. Many viewed him as an incompetent leader, prone to making rash decisions, and this would prove to be critical during the siege. Another key figure on the Christian side was Balian of Ibelin. Known for his honor and courage, Balian was one of the most respected nobles in Jerusalem. He had initially sought to avoid direct conflict, hoping to keep his family safe. However, circumstances forced him to stay in Jerusalem and take up the role of its defender. Balian's bravery and tactical skills would make him a worthy adversary for Saladin. Now let's turn to the Muslim side, led by the brilliant and charismatic Saladin. Born in Tikrit, Saladin rose through the ranks and united the Muslim world under a single banner, driven by a vision of Islamic unity. Known for his generosity and sense of justice, Saladin was a respected figure even among his enemies. But he was also a skilled tactician and a fierce warrior. For Saladin, the conquest of Jerusalem was both a religious duty and a political goal. With Saladin's forces vastly outnumbering the Crusaders, he aimed to crush the Christian hold on the Holy Land once and for all. But the Christians were determined to defend Jerusalem, even against impossible odds. With both sides ready, the stage was set for one of the most intense battles of the medieval period. Section 4. The Siege of Jerusalem. The siege began in September of 1187. Saladin's forces surrounded the city, cutting off supplies and access to reinforcements. Saladin's strategy was one of patience, aiming to starve out the defenders rather than rush into a costly assault. But he also launched several calculated attacks on the city walls, hoping to wear down the defenders. Inside the city, Balian of Ibelin organized the defenses. Despite a lack of resources and soldiers, he rallied the people of Jerusalem, turning ordinary citizens into fighters and repairing damaged sections of the wall. Balian knew that they couldn't withstand a prolonged siege, but he was determined to make Saladin's victory as difficult as possible. After 2 weeks of fierce fighting, Saladin's forces managed to breach parts of the wall, pushing the defenders to their limits. The city's defenses were collapsing, and it became clear that Jerusalem could not hold out much longer. At this point, Balian approached Saladin not to surrender outright, but to negotiate. In one of the most surprising turns in the siege, Saladin agreed to negotiate rather than continue a brutal assault. The two leaders reached a deal that allowed the inhabitants to leave the city peacefully, but only if they could pay a ransom. Those who couldn't pay would be taken into slavery. But in an unexpected act of mercy, Saladin freed many who couldn't afford the ransom, sparing thousands of lives. The siege ended on October 2nd, 1187, when Saladin's forces officially took control of Jerusalem. It was a profound moment, marking the end of nearly 90 years of Christian rule over the city. Saladin entered Jerusalem not as a conqueror bent on revenge, but as a ruler who sought to protect the city's sacred sites and maintain peace. Section 5. Aftermath and Historical Impact. The fall of Jerusalem was a crushing blow to the Crusader states and sent shockwaves throughout Europe. News of Jerusalem's capture reached Pope Urban III, who, according to some sources, died from the shock of the loss. The fall of Jerusalem would spark the Third Crusade, as Christian Europe sought to reclaim the Holy City. Among the leaders of the Third Crusade were King Richard the Lionheart of England and King Philip II of France, two of the most famous figures of the medieval period. Saladin's conquest of Jerusalem is remembered not just for its military brilliance, but for his treatment of the city and its inhabitants. Unlike the Crusaders in 1099, who had slaughtered Jerusalem's Muslim and Jewish residents, Saladin's forces maintained relative peace and order. This act earned him a place of respect, not just in the Muslim world, but in Western history as well. The events of the siege highlighted the complexity of the Crusades. It wasn't simply a battle between Christianity and Islam, but a conflict marked by shifting alliances, personal ambitions, and moments of unexpected mercy. Jerusalem would remain under Muslim control until the early 20th century, and the siege became a defining chapter in the story of the Crusades. Even today, the siege of Jerusalem is studied not only as a pivotal moment in military history, but as an example of how leaders like Saladin and Balian of Ibelin displayed humanity in the face of war. Their decisions during the siege left a legacy that continues to influence how we view medieval warfare and leadership. Section 6. Conclusion and Viewer Engagement. The Siege of Jerusalem is more than just a battle from the past. It's a story of ambition, faith, courage, and mercy. It reminds us that history is filled with complex characters who, even in times of conflict, can act with honor and humanity. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the real kingdom of heaven. If you enjoyed this deep dive into medieval history, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories from the past. And let us know in the comments, do you think leaders today could learn from the actions of Saladin and Balian? Or was the Siege of Jerusalem unique to its time? See you in the next video.